I think so, but I mean, the Magister Sidereals are not easy, and you're about to fight them in like 2 sessions. So I was like, yeah, level them up and see what happens. Hopefully they'll win. I'm gonna say you guys have 3 healers in your group, which is the largest number of any other campaign. So I was gonna say if you guys all do die, then I'm like, that's embarrassing. That's embarrassing. 3 healers and you all die. So Mike and I, when we were talking about the trials, we in our head on paper, we both had envisioned Rousseau's trial of the breath to be a lot more epic than it actually ended up being in execution. And so I really loved just it seemed like Tommy and Rousseau had a great time in that scene, that trial scene. And that amount of passion was more in line of what Mike and I were hoping for Rousseau's trial. And so I think that Tommy gave me really good feedback after the fact, which was the biggest issue I think with the trial of the breath originally was that you gave him an issue that he wasn't particularly like passionate about one way or another. And so because he wasn't really passionate about it, it was hard for him to really get into the trial. So I was trying to going into this session, I was trying to put more focus on Tyrion and Daretham because I felt like Daretham and Tyrion needed it. And so I thought, well, can I try to kill 2 birds with 1 stone and try to make up for Rousseau's trial by adding Rousseau as a big part of the trial of heart, but still make Tyrion the focus of the trial of heart. And so that's what I came up with for that. I didn't go into the trial already having in mind this is the correct answer or this is how I want Tyrion to answer these questions in order to pass. It was more of the theme was because Mike and I we were talking about it, and it's like, what if we put him through a trial where he had to prove that he was selfless or he had to show mercy? And I'm like, well, that's super obvious. Like trial of the heart, like, and I know Tyrion's gonna pass that easily. Like Tyrion's already a selfless person. It's not gonna be that much of a trial. And so then I thought, well, what if I actually made the trial a trial, like, and what if I actually the theme was less on you need to be nice to everybody and more Tyrion has a troubled heart. And that troubled heart needs to be like, he needs to deal with his stuff, basically. Tyrion needs to deal with it. And so really all I wanted from him was to come out of this like really sure of himself and confident in his convictions of his heart and lose that doubt and that self-doubt and that self-trouble. So that was really all I wanted for him to pass. And I also felt that I was able to kill a 3rd bird with 1 stone because I knew that Skull really wanted to do something more into Vinter where he actually turned himself in. And so since we didn't do that, I thought, hey, why don't we set up the scenario of what would have happened, play it out, and that could make up for the fact that we didn't stay into Vinter as long as we probably wanted. I also love that you were picking up that I was trying to give you some subtle hints to the answer with each scene. So, for example, with Livia, she was talking about the future, and so that's why she had time. And then for Verania, and then for Livia, she was talking about wisdom and pearls of wisdom. And with Ceres I thought Ceres was the hardest, honestly, of the 3. And I gave very subtle hint in that she was having a tea party that in my head, her tea party table was circular, the cups were circular. Like there were circles, but I didn't want to explicitly say this is circular and this is circular because I don't want to make it too obvious. But I had planned at some point for there to be some altercation between you and Darren. And I wanted there to be like a scene that set that up where she was talking to Daretham and saying, there's something that I need to do, but I can't tell you right now because I don't want you to influence my decision because it's my decision, etc. And like be really, really vague about it. And then the following scene or later in the session, she would just like attack Tyrion and be like, you had one job Tyrion, you had one job. All you had to do was this one thing. That's all you wanted to do. Why couldn't you just do it? Why did you put me in this position? Blah, 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 blah. And now I'm probably going to lose Daretham because of this. I'm betraying the party that I love so much. Why are you doing this to me? Like, that's basically was what she was going to do, is have that breakdown. And I thought that would have been really cool. But things didn't play out that way. And so what you ended up was her confession to you, and even then I was thinking of having her talk to Daretham first and revealing it to Daretham as well. But I thought it would be more interesting if Tyrion was the one that she said it to, just because I felt like they were at that point in the relationship with the party overall. If you guys look at that session again when Darren finally comes back to the group again after she was gone, I remember Daretham being like, "Are you okay? Is everything okay?" And she's like, "I'm fine. Everything's fine." And I was specifically being like, "Yeah, no, I'm fine. What's going on next?" Because I know what she was told, and I know that she's looking at Tyrion when she's saying that, "I'm fine. Everything's fine." I think, to be fair, like she said, like she's known this party for what, a couple of months, and you know, her loyalties really do lie in her master, because her master never was always good to her, so there's no reason for her to screw over her master. So she was a really, really tight spot. And yeah, so I do feel sympathetic towards her. Yeah, because I think the biggest place that I would have done it would be somewhere between somewhere when you were in the Anderfels, and like I wasn't going to take away more from the Corrin stuff, and I didn't want to take away from the Black King stuff, and so that's why it never really brought up. I just couldn't fit it in. Interesting. And very poetic, because you have this god who is this high being entity that allows himself to become a slave, basically, like trialed as a slave, which is really, really interesting, I think. One last thing I will say about Tyrion is I think it was Amarin who said the quote, "The healer sometimes has the bloodiest hands." Do you know who said that quote? It's a Dragon Age character who said that quote. No, not Wynn. It was a party member, though. A party member does say it. Solus said that. Solus says that. I really love the love-hate relationship between Darren and Tyrion, because she clearly likes him and finds him alluring in many ways, but she also hates him so much for other reasons too. So it's so complicated. I love it. Yeah, Nathan, I think, has seen Daretham doing his, "Oh, well, you're kind of right, and you're kind of right, and you're kind of wrong, and you're kind of wrong." And I think in Nathan's head, he's like, that's just a cop-out. Like, you're just copping out in his mind. I mean, he agrees with Pasha a lot, so I can't say that Pasha's opened his eyes, because Pasha confirms a lot of his ideals. And the thing with Nathan and Tyrion is they're super close. And I'm just gonna say right here that in my head right now, the way I'm feeling things is Nathan sees his relationship with Tyrion as a bromance, and not necessarily more than a bromance. He sees it as a bromance. And so when he's hurt, I don't necessarily intend for it to mean anything romantic. It's more like he's very close with Tyrion. And the thing is, their interactions together, their conversations with each other, I don't think Tyrion ever challenges Nathan with his ideals, other than what he did with Amarin. But even then, when Nathan like called him on what he did with Amarin, Tyrion never like tried to tell. Tyrion pretty much agreed with Nathan and wasn't trying to justify himself to Nathan. Yeah, I honestly feel like of all of the five, Rousseau is the one who opened his eyes the most, because Rousseau's also a warrior like his dad. He sees a lot of Rousseau in his dad, and just those small moments that he had with Rousseau, like when Rousseau stood up against the crowd who was like throwing stones at him, and just, you know, I feel like they had another roleplay like session after that. I think Nathan and Rousseau definitely have had a lot of bonding moments. I feel like that's something that Jody and Maximilian have to work through, is that Jody probably wants Maximilian to apologize more, and he feels like just doing better is enough. And as long as I do better, then I don't need to apologize to my wife. And I don't think Jody agrees with that. So I think that's a very good point. Speaking of words, Tommy, everything in your scene with Violetta. Oh my gosh, you had me crying. I was like tearing up when you did the whole proposal scene, and I was like, this is great. This is super cool. I think that's pretty common with a lot of women about who are reaching a certain age. They have some insecurities, and I definitely feel like someone like Violetta, who is a very confident person, she does have her insecurities, and she likes to be pretty for people. And I think she wants to be pretty for her future husband. She wants to provide that. It's more for Russo than it is for herself, I think. That's where that's coming from. And I think part of it's because both of them are very mature. I think I have more reservations when younger people jump into marriage, but if there's older people, then, I don't think I have the same worries. So I have one more thought before we completely close, and that's about the Bachelorette episode. So here's my thought, and if you guys don't like the idea, it's okay. We don't have to do it. But if we have time in the next session, I thought it would be kind of fun to role play that a little bit. And so my thought was, so there's Valor, there's the three bachelors for Valor, and then there's the host. So I was thinking one of you could role play as Valor, one of you could role play the host, and the other three could role play as the other gentleman. And so you can pick who wants to be the blonde, who wants to be the brunette, and who wants to be the ginger, I guess. I think those are the three. The blonde, the brunette, and the ginger, or the black hair one, I don't remember. And then you can give each one their own personality. And so I wanted to play out like Valor will hang out with this one, and the blonde be like, "Hey babe," blah blah blah, blah, or whatever you want to give. I feel like Tommy by default has to be Dan the Man, but in Dan the Man, but yes, Dan the Man, but in Griffin form. Yes. And I guess Callista, it probably makes sense for you to either be Valor or be the host that's actually running the show. So I don't know which one you prefer, but you can think about it. Because if you're not going to be Valor, then who should be Valor? That'll be, you guys can talk about that amongst yourselves. So, all right, guys, I have to go because I have baby duty. But thank you guys so much. Thank you again, Mike, for hanging out with us. And I will see you guys in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks. See you guys. Bye.